Hello my friends. Today's video is going to be an introduction to SPS. This video is geared towards newer reefers that are interested in starting out in SPS or already have some SPS. However, that doesn't mean you should leave, as I've fiddled around with the camera and I believe the footage is substantially better than my previous videos. Let me know what you think. I will be going through the different types of SPS from what is easiest to hardest based on my experience. We will start off with Pocilloporidae, Montipora, Acropora, and a couple types of coral that I'm not sure are SPS, Cyphastrea and Leptoseris. If you know what these should be classified as, please let me know in the comments. Before we get to the SPS families, I will not be discussing flow requirements for each family because I believe good random flow is the key for all coral, more so with SPS. If you're going to start SPS, don't make the same mistake I did and put your frag directly in front of a power head thinking they need a lot of flow, because the key is random and somewhat indirect flow. Pocilloporidae. The lighting requirements for this group of coral varies. They seem to be able to handle really high light as well as lower light conditions. In my experience, the coral in the Pocilloporidae family are the easiest SPS that you can start with. The common names in our hobby for these coral are bird's nest, Stylophora, and Pocillopora. All of these coral grow relatively quickly and have been aquacultured long enough to be tank hardened. All three of these coral have different growth patterns. Bird's nests grow long, thin branches that are covered in polyps that extend out a far amount. Here's mine, which I grew from a tiny frag. Besides being tank hardened, this guy has grown quickly, from less than 2 inches wide to roughly 8 inches wide in about 10 months. Next we have Stylophora, which looks similar to Pocillopora. To tell them apart, you'll want to look at the growth shape, and hopefully whoever is selling the coral will be able to lead you in the right direction. Stylophora is a much stubbier coral. You can see from the specimens in my tank that their branches are short and clubby. Pocillopora's growth is more branchy. One thing to note, I have heard that Stylophora can perform polyp bailout, although I've never seen it personally myself. In my experience, if they do, it must not happen very often. Last in this family are Pocillopora. I don't have much to say about Pocillopora because the only specimen I ever owned came in on a Zoa frag, and I view them as similar to Stylophora. I discourage people from owning Pocillopora because they are very successful when it comes to replicating themselves using polyp bailout. I haven't heard of any other types of SPS that are able to have their polyps leave their skeletons and actually grow elsewhere in our enclosed reef systems. The problem with the polyp bailout is that you will end up with Pocillopora growing in places you did not plan. They can grow beside other corals and will sting them. Montipora. There are many different types of Montipora with different growth patterns. There are encrusting Monties, which are gorgeous and in certain instances commanded exorbitant prices when they first came out. Plating Monties that are hardy and tend to plate out and plate into themselves create a pleasant growth pattern. And then you have branching Monties, which grow in a branchy manner. In general, most Monties are relatively fast growers. With regards to lighting, Montipora are the most light-sensitive SPS that I have owned. Montipora can handle a wide variety of lighting levels. I've had them growing in low-light conditions and also high-light conditions. If you are planning to expose them to high light, you need to slowly acclimate them to the light. In my experience, without proper acclimation, they will bleach. Once acclimated, they can handle gobs of light. As I had previously mentioned, the encrusting Monties we have in our hobby are gorgeous. The issue with encrusting Monties is that a majority of them are very strong in terms of battling with other coral. When battling with Acropora, the Monty may lose out at first, but due to how fast they can grow, there is potential for it to just outgrow Acropora and eventually smother it. I've had this happen. So my warning is to be careful with encrusting Monties. They can quickly grow out of control without proper planning. Plating Montipora are quite common. I've seen some epic colonies on mile-high reefers. If you're planning to purchase some plating Monties for your tank, because of their plating growth pattern, you may want to place them lower in your tank. If you ever plan on getting a grafted plating Monty, just be aware that sometimes the grafting coloration doesn't grow very evenly. I believe to get nice grafted frags, they're oftentimes forced, either by placing two colors together or by cutting a piece off of a colony that already has some nice grafting to it. There are a number of different types of branching Montipora. Some varieties include digitata, stellata, and elkhorn. Elkhorn Monties are one I would recommend to any SPS beginners. I added a frag of Elkhorn Monty to my tank when it was only a week old. This green Elkhorn is a beast, has an attractive growth pattern and green coloration, and it doesn't beat any coral. So you can let it grow out without worrying that it will take over or smother any of your other more expensive pieces. It's pretty much the perfect space filler. This forest fire digitata is simply delightful. Gorgeous orange polyps with green growth tips. Last we have Acropora. Acros have a reputation of being difficult to keep, when in general it really is only a small subset of acros that truly need pristine and ultra stable parameters. If you remove the handful that are truly difficult to keep, you end up with a group of coral of all different growth patterns and colors that most stickheads fall in love with. When it comes to lighting, you're going to find that Acropora can do well in a wide range of lighting conditions, from medium light to high light. In fact, oftentimes when we think of Acropora, we think of really high light, when in reality, I've seen people have great success with acros at around 200 or 250 par. That's really not very high light. So there may be some acros that do much better with higher lighting, say 400 or 500 par, in which case you want to place them towards the top of your tank. But in general, from what I've seen, what other reefers have accomplished, you really don't need the highest light to grow Acropora. Now, all that being said, you do need sufficient light. So it's going to be up to you to find out what type of lighting conditions an acro prefers. If you're able to, find out from the seller where they're keeping their mother colony. And if they have par levels, that's great. Not everyone does. But in general, if they're keeping their mother colony right at the top of their tank, and you know what type of lighting they have, whether it's 8 T5 bulbs, or a bunch of halides, or a bunch of LEDs, you can adjust accordingly. Besides asking the seller, if this is a well-known species that's been around for a long time, such as Bali Green Slimer or Pink Lemonade, you can look online. Or finally, if you really don't have any type of reference, then start out lower and work your way up. Cyphastrea. I'm not sure whether Cyphastrea are classified as SPS or LPS. So I'll just add it to this video, especially since I did get some epic footage of this berserko Cyphastrea. Now, most Cyphastrea are encrusting type coral, with the exception of the branching Cyphastrea. I've achieved better results with Cyphastrea with low to medium light levels. There are some delightful specimens of this coral in our hobby. One thing to keep in mind with Cyphastrea is, like most encrusting coral, it is rather strong in my experience, and will kill Acropora. Proper planning is needed when positioning these coral in your tank, ideally on its own island, or in a way where it will be unlikely to encrust up to your other coral. Now, all that being said, if you don't want to do all that, you can always kill it back with kalkwasser. Leptoseris. Again, I'm unsure where Leptoseris should be classified. They do have tiny mouths, but do mouths constitute polyps? If you know the answer, please let me know in the comments. The most famous lepto, at least here in Canada, is probably the jack-o'-lantern. One of the fascinating things with the jack-o'-lantern lepto is how metallic the coloration is. I haven't managed to get my hands on any others, but the kleptolepto looks like it could be a metallic pink, and the tron lepto looks like another type of metallic lepto. For lighting requirements, the lower the better, although in my experience, they can handle some stronger light as well. I view leptos the same as all other types of encrusting coral. They need to be placed carefully, even more so than others because I've seen good length sweeper tentacles from the jack-o'-lantern lepto. How would I start SPS? If I were to start all over again, how would I get started into SPS? I would learn the ropes with a couple of the easier varieties or even some easier, cheap acro frags. What this will do is provide you with some test subjects to learn how to maintain stable alkalinity, how to tell if they are stressed, and how to find the correct placement for them. Once you're successful for a month and you realize you've become an addict, go out and get more. It is okay if you aren't successful the first few times, because if you follow the step above, you really aren't out very much money. Every time there's a death, try to determine what the cause was. Were some of your parameters out of whack? Are your nutrients too high? Is there a fish bothering them? Did they come in with pests? Cut your teeth on cheap frags until you can keep them alive, then move on to the more expensive pieces. By taking this approach, you will save a lot of money and heartache. Now, if you want to skip all that and you just want to get into acros, then here's what I would do. Stick to the easier ones, and again, try to find some easy, cheap acro frags. You should be able to find some locally from other hobbyists. In fact, if some of these are growing really well for other hobbyists, they may just be giving them away, especially at your local reef club. So some types that have been aquacultured in our hobbies for years would be a great place to start. So pieces like the Bali green slimer, certain types of Austera such as the WWC yellow tips, the green slimer, or various torts such as Cali tort or Miyagi tort. Most varieties of staghorns are also very hardy. Find out from the seller what they would recommend. So that's it for this video, my friends. If you enjoyed the video and would like to support the channel, hit that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm and the subscribe button with the notification bell so you don't miss out on any great content. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.